couldn't hear what you were saying before, but thanks for the presentation anyways. So it's a pleasure to be with you guys for this little equipment presentation. As you know, it's really important to have the equipment that holds us on to skate fast. We may train as much as we may train really hard, have good coaches, and have everything together. But if we have bad equipment, it's going to be really tough to skate and compete with the other skaters. So yeah, so the main topics tonight, we're going to talk, of course, a little bit about sharpening, and we're going to talk about little equipment. Some equipment tips that are very important for every skaters. So is that going well with everyone can hear what I'm saying? It's doing good. I don't really see. Okay. Oh. Yeah, we're doing good. Okay, great. So I don't see really what I'm doing, but great. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks everyone to be here. I think we have skaters from 10 to 16 years old, and a few coaches also will attend. What I would ask the coaches, if of course at the end I would keep a little bit of time to answer some questions. If you have some, that'll be a pleasure to answer them. If the coach have more technical questions, we can go maybe after the session, at the end of the sessions, to go in more technical details. So, but as I'm going, if I don't really see my screen so well from here, but Judy, you can stop me, or if there's something you guys want me to go deeper into. So probably Julie said that, but I'm with Nagano Skate now. I'm an ex-speed skater. I went to Nagano Olympic Games in 1998. And as a skater, I was really putting a lot of time on my equipment. I was training hard, but I was taking very good care of my equipment. And at some point, my story is that I saw a Japanese skater named Satoru Terao, who had blades that were quite different than what I was that what we would see normally. And one day that I had a bad back pain, and I had a cold. I was supposed to miss the training, and I decided to go with my old pair of blades to make some tests, trying to reproduce what I saw on this guy's blades. What I noticed is that his flat parts seemed a little bit longer. It didn't seem as flat as ours, but a little bit longer. And at the end, we could see that it was rounding really quickly at the end. So to me, it was more like a parabolic shape. So I tried that on my old pair of blades. And that night, I went to the practice to try it. And to my big surprise, I was so awesome, so amazing. From that moment, I went from being, maybe top 5 in Canada, from probably being top 5 in the world, just like that, with a good rocker. So eventually, I took note of this rocker. I put a mark on every centimeters of my blade, and I noted that with my gauge what I had as the rocker. And every morning of a competition, I would adjust my rocker hand rockering to make sure I was on the numbers for every single place on my blade. And I always had good competition. And eventually I even develop my own template to reproduce that rocker, and the national team have used that rocker for probably about 10 years after I quit skating. So that, because of that, eventually I got a call from the national team to take care of the equipment for the Canadian team. They needed someone for the Sochi Olympic Games, so I took the job, and I was with the national team. I was the equipment specialist for 4 years, working with Charles Hamelin, Marianne Saint-Gelais, Olivier Jean, François Hamelin. So I was a great 4 years, and eventually I came back to Quebec and developed that company, Nagano Skate, and we developed the stones, the jigs, the rocker machine, but also the academy that most of you know. We're doing training camps and all. So here I am today to give you some tips about equipment. So first question that's quite important is, how often should we sharpen our skates? Some people think you have to sharpen every race. Some people don't sharpen as much. I will tell you the answer is simple: is you have to sharpen your skates every time they need to be sharpened. Means when they're not sharpened anymore, you need to sharpen them. But how often, how long can you make with one sharpening? Normally it goes from 1 to 2, 3 practices. Okay, after that it's the blades are getting dull. In a competition, you don't necessarily need to sharpen every race. For Charles Hamelin, for example, if he had a big strip, I would sharpen his blade at night, and he could go for 1 full day without sharpening. So you have to check them every single race for sure. Every single practice, after you check them, and if you sharpen, the thing you need to know also is, if you sharpen regularly, if you don't wait for too long, it's going to be quicker every time, and so at the end you're going to save time. But if they don't need to be sharpened, so you may just lose your time, and at the end eventually run your blade down if you sharpen too often. But if, as I say, if they're sharpened, they're sharpened. You're not going to go faster if you sharpen them again. Okay, and how to know if they're sharpened? First thing is you take your blade. Always have to look if you got some burr with your nails. You go like that. Of course, the inside edges are always the most important. So that's the first thing I do. I go to my blades and see if there is burr. If I feel some burr, for sure that there's going to be something wrong there. Okay, so then you can remove the burr. Okay, but also there's different techniques. I like to use my finger, my thumb. Some people can use other fingers, but there's always the nails. You know, I would normally go every centimeter almost, and look and feel if it's biting on my fingers, and look at the little nails that I leave on the blade, if it is constant. If at some, and sometimes when you got a place where it's a little bit dull, it's not gonna come as much. You're not gonna see much nail on the blade. So you check again, and then you'll see if it needs to be sharpened. So sometimes you may not be sure. You know, you check your blade. I'm not sure. Should I sharpen? Should I not sharpen? I can tell you there's no shame to that. Okay, even the skaters on the national team, they would come to me and during a World Cup or a World Championship, they would come to me, give me their skates. Can you just check if they're sharpened? And you can do that to your coach, to your parents, to someone you trust. That would take that person just a couple of seconds, and you're gonna have your mind off that. You won't need to worry about that. If they tell you yes, you need to sharpen, then you sharpen them. If they, as I said, if they're sharp, they're sharp. You can go sometimes a full day of competition without having to sharpen them. There's a couple of things that may affect the sharpening quicker than normal. First, if you're skating on a dirty ice, if the ice is dirty, there's a little bit of sand on the ice. For sure, it's going to be really rough on the edges. So you have to be very careful if you know that where you're going, the ice is dirty. Then another factor is your sharpening, how you sharpen. If you go with very strong burrs, like on the black for the diamond sharpening, or on the very rough conventional stones, and you just remove the burr and that's it, then you're gonna feel your skates are very sharp, but they may your edge may break more quite fast. So the technique I'm going to show you today is a technique where you get your burr and eventually you remove it, and then you get a smaller burr that's going to be more strong and that will last for longer. Then another factor is if you hit blades, for sure. If you hit blades, you can have that will affect your sharpening. That may even create a strip. How do you see a strip? Normally, you run your finger on the blade, you would feel it. Of course, with your nails, when you try to put your nail on the blade, nothing's gonna come out. And even if you put it on the light, then you're gonna see different. The light's going to be different where there's a strip. So what you do on a strip, you never run a carbide on a strip. You just use a conventional stone like that, or a diamond stone. Okay, and you remove the side. Okay. And then you sharpen. Sometimes you need to go with really a deep sharpening to remove the strip. But one thing that's important to know is, and I'm saying that for the coaches also, you don't need to remove that strip completely to make a good job. Okay, because sometimes the strips are very deep in the blades. So I would say that if the strip gets down to about a few millimeters long, I would say 3, 4, 5, under 5 millimeters, like it's half a centimeter, that would be okay. The skater won't feel that. But if it's bigger than that, if it goes near 1 centimeter, I would keep sharpening with a very rough stone until the strip is really smaller. But sometimes if you try to sharpen until the strip is completely away, it's gonna take a really long time. So that's a good advice to remember. So again, from what I said so far, you want to check your blades often. Make sure that they're nice and sharpened, and you don't need to sharpen them if they're good. But if you do that on a regular basis, you'll save time for sure. It's going to be quicker every time. Okay. Stripped edge, I talked of that. One thing that's very important, I just talked about blade contact. It can be during a practice. It can be, it often happens during a competition. It's really important to loosen this, one of the two bolts quite often in a year, in a season, even you got to do it quite often, because you know you only have two bolts that holds the blade on the boot. You're very strong. Sometimes you will push with the tip of the blade, so that creates a lot of tension on the blade. Sometimes you have contacts, you make starts, so there's a lot of tension that's created on the blade. So what you need to know is that, you know, as what you probably know is that you have a bend on your blades and a rocker. And if for some reason like that, there's some tension created on the blade, and you know, it doesn't need so much that sometimes often the blade will be stuck on a certain position with the tension stayed on it, and that's going to change the bend quite significantly. So you may have the best bend, a great rocker. You know, if there is tension in the blade, this, you know, will be changed significantly, and it's going to affect a lot the how the blades are going to feel on the ice. Okay, so what you do is that you take a key like that. Some people have Allen keys. They would need Allen key. So if your boots, for often is the bound boots that are like that, they work with an Allen key. So make sure you have one in your bag, the good Allen key for your boot. Or most of the people have keys like that to lose their blade. So what you need to do is only loosen one of the two. Here I just do the one in front. You make sure it's loose enough, and sometimes I would just push like that to make sure that all the tension goes away. So just by doing that, you don't you should know how much fall you may avoid, because we see, I'm sure you saw a lot of people go in competition, you know, that was going good in training, everything was great, they were skating well, and they get into a competition, there's a contact, they fall, and then they go sharpen their blades, but they forgot to lose their one of the bolts, and they go back on the ice, they fall again, and they had at the end they have a terrible day. They may have fall 3, 4, 5 times in the weekend. Sometimes, as I said, just losing one of the two bolts, can be the front one, can be the back one, would bring the blades normal in, I would say, 90–95% of the time. Okay, and if there was a really big contact, one thing, don't forget to tighten it back, because it's not going to skate so well after. So you tighten it back. It doesn't need to be crazy tight, but you know, tight enough. But as I was going to say, if I was a big contact and you feel that the coach may have to have a look at it, you know, I would tell you, don't take a chance. Go to see your coach. Go to see the person who's in charge of the equipment, and you know, ask them, could you have a quick look at my blades? I had a big crash or a big blades contact, and you know, if there's something wrong, you would see it right away. And if you don't do that, as I said, you might fall the next race, and you might have a very bad day. And that could have been changed with only a you know, couple shots of benders. So it's really important to be aware of your equipment. At the same time, it's you have to have a balance. You know, some people normally it's more when they're on the national team or when they're getting you know to a very high level. Some people they tend to always put the blame on the blades. So that would be the other extreme. You don't want necessarily to go there, but if there's something wrong, you feel it, you know, go to your coach, have it checked, you know, make sure that blades are sharp, everything's good, but don't keep skating if you don't feel stable, if you don't feel that the blades are holding you properly. So yes, during a practice, you can even do it yourself. Probably you sit on a, you know, you sit on a bucket, bring your blade up, and you can probably do it yourself like that. Again, make sure you tied it really well, or ask one of your teammates or the coach. Normally the coach would have a little key like that in his pocket, or make sure you have one if you're starting to be a skater that's going quite faster. Make sure you have one around, and yeah, you can do it during the practice. You know, if the feeling is not good, again, it can only this can save your practice. It can save you a fall. It's super important. As I said, I say it again. It will fix 90% of the problems. Okay, and once a while you may have you may want to ask the coach also if the rocker is fine, because I would tell you the rocker is really important. In two words, what is the rocker? It's the curve under the blade. Okay, and the more flat you are, the more glide you will have. But at some point you want it to be round enough to be able to turn. So for example, on the long track, they're on a 25 meters radius, very flat. It looks like it's almost completely flat. They go very fast, but they don't turn so tight. The other extreme would be the hockey or the figure skating. Their blades are really round because they're, you know, they got to turn very quickly. So in short track, it's a little bit, it's a mix between both. We want it to be flatter in the middle and rounder at the end. And the best rockers we see now is more on a parabolic progression. So you're not too flat in the middle, but flat in the middle and getting rounder progressively and much rounder in the end. So I'm not going to go too much more in details about that, but just know that the rocker is important, and that's a good idea to have it checked every once in a while. For the national team, for example, we would do the rocker every 3 weeks. Okay, on the elite group here in Quebec, we do the rocker probably about 3 times a year. And I would say every skater should have his rocker fixed at least every year. Okay, so you will fit somewhere there 1, 2, 3 times a year. That's normally what you need to have a good rocker that makes the blades work well for you. As I said, you want to glide, but also you want to be able to turn and have a good feeling on the blade. Okay, now we're gonna get to skate sharpening. Okay, so we're gonna go quickly, talk quickly about the equipment. This is a silver jig from Nagano. We also have a gold jig. What these jigs do is that they have systems to make sure that there's no tension in the blades. Okay, because the older jigs that we see that are cheaper, they have 2 big square parts that push on each other. That holds the blades, but what we notice is that it creates a little bit of tension on the blade. So you got to be careful with that, so that your blades are always laying on the same angle, right? So if one time you're in an angle like that, and the next time you sharpen, you're on an angle like that, well, it's going to be really long to get your burr. So you're going to lose a lot of time and lose a lot of energy, and use your equipment, wear your equipment down much faster. So if you have those old jigs, the little tip I can give you is that, you know, you place your blades. Okay. Also, there's a now on the new jigs that there's a rulers on the middle part like that, but there's always adjustment that you can make to make your jig shorter or longer. What I would suggest is that you always use the same setup. So if you're on a specific position, let's say here I'm on a 17.5, or if you're on your old maple jig, you're on a specific hole, I would always put my skates like that. Okay, always the same way, always the same direction. See, does this part should be the front part or the back part? That doesn't change much as long as you put it always the same way. Okay, because what you want again is to do everything to have your skates on the same angle. So that way you're gonna get your edge really quickly. Okay, so if you're using old jigs, I would tell you just place your blades on your jigs. Okay, always the same way. Then use your stone, put an angle into it, and go with a side movement on the blades, and look at the little mark you make. What you want is to have the mark going all the width of the blade. Okay, if you see it only on one side, means your blade might not be on the same angle as last time you sharpen. So if the case, just play with your your handles, play with your blades a little bit, and try it again, and look, and make sure that the marks you make go all the way, all the width of the blades. Okay, so now you're set up. We're going to talk quickly about the stones. Some people will use conventional stones. I don't have one here. There's the other option is the diamond that we use a lot. If you have conventional stone, what I say is make sure it's clean. Okay, you can clean it with any oil, baby oil, vegetable oil, or WD-40. Okay, make sure it's clean. Clean it often. You don't want it to be full of material into it. It's not gonna bite so much. And what you want is to have it very, very straight. Okay, if the blade, if the stone has big kind of holes or big waves into it, well, I can tell you it's going to be really hard to make a nice sharpening, or make a constant result. You're always going to be trying and trying. So the most important is to have a stone that is very straight. Okay, and that's why eventually people go to diamond, because for diamond we know it's straight, and the worst that can happen is that it doesn't bite so much anymore, and then you can change just the diamond, or change the stone. But yeah, make sure it's clean and it's straight. Then you always start with a rougher grit. In the case of diamond sharpening, if you sharpen not too long ago, let's say 1 or 2 practices, normally the blue grit will be enough to get your edge. Even sometimes you're in a competition, sometimes you can get your first edge with a red. So which one should you start with? You know, you just look at your blades, you see, you know, if they're really dull, I know I didn't sharpen them for a while, or I see a big strip, I would go straight to the black, you know, I would sharpen with my black. On this case here, I didn't sharpen those skates. Those are my my old Ram skates that I skated the Olympics in 1998 with. They're not so, I don't think I sharpened them for a while. Probably last time it might have been in Toronto for a clinic on sharpening. So I would probably start with my black. But as I said before, if you just sharpen it a couple practices ago, you can start with your blue. In this case here, I would start with my blue. Okay. So now the technique. How should you do it? There's a lot of things people hear about sharpening, and at some point it's a shame because people get mixed. They get confused. Okay. Some people tell you don't put any weight on the stone, or do this or do that. Okay, I would tell you some tips. Of course, if you have a conventional stone that's very heavy, you don't need to put so much weight on the stone. But for sure, with something like that, that's weight nothing, you need to put some tension on the stone so that you have a good contact on the blade. I might go a little bit on the side like that. And so you want some pressure, but what you want is to have a constant pressure, right? Also, should you sharpen with straight movement? That's always a good option, but you don't want to always stay on the same place on your sharpening stone. For example, if I'm always here, so I would wear this part really quickly, and so what I want is to make straight movement, but slowly switch from left to right. So for example, I will go forward like that. You see, I start my blade, my stone is pretty much this way, and I will go 5-6 times, and see now my stone is that way. So doing that, always constant pressure. You go back and forth slowly like that. So you will wear your diamond or whatever the stone you have, you will wear it evenly, and so I will be much more resistant. I don't know if you can see the dust here. Nice thing about diamond, you just clean it with a cloth like that. You don't need oil. It doesn't take more time than that. So you need to, you can clean it quite often. So normally I would like to count the number of strides I do. Okay, so I did about 10. I would go, normally I go about 30 strides back and forth at a time. So I will complete my first 30 strides. Okay, and then I will check with my nails. People laugh sometimes when I say you should manage your nails before competition, but because it's important to have your nails to feel the burn. Okay, if you just cut your nails the morning of the competition or the night before competition, because you want to look good and all that, well, you may not feel the burn so much. So I would cut them maybe 3-4 nights before the competition, so that You know, when you need to sharpen, you feel it. You see, you can probably even hear it. Okay, so you're gonna go like that and make sure that you got burr, you know, really a burr that's strong enough. You need to be sure that it's there. If you're not sure, you keep going. You want the burr to be everywhere on the blade, especially on the important edges. Okay, so you know that you have, let's say those are my skates. I got the left blade, the inside is here. The right blade, the inside is here. So my two most important edges are the ones that are inside the corner. Okay, and for the right, for the left also, the one that's gonna push in the straight is also important. But if you look at the right blade, okay, the right blade, the outside of the right blade, it's not important. So for example, if you have a strip there, or if it's you don't feel the burr, you don't need to worry about it. You're never gonna skate on this edge. Okay, so I don't know if it's clear for everybody, but just make sure you got burr everywhere. If it's not there, keep going. Also, there's another technique. Often the coaches don't like you to do that. I would say it's the, you know, oblique technique. If you go like that, what I like about this technique is that the edge comes quicker. Of course, I talked before about having a wavy stone. If you got a wavy stone and you start sharpening like that, it's going to be a disaster. If you got a diamond stone and you go like that with a constant pressure, I think it's going to be fine. Okay, and but always you want a constant pressure and go to the end. Okay, you don't want to stop. I go on the side like that. You don't want to stop too early. If you stop too early, what you would do is you would create flats in the end of your blades. Okay, that's not what you want, because if the end of the blades become too flat, eventually your blades would tend to break the ice and to just go away. So so what you want is to go to the end, but not too much so that you're damaging your stones. You know, again, that you work with diamond or conventional stone, you want to go to the end, but not too much where here I'm damaging my my stone. So you go to the end like that, back and forth. And if you have hard time and you feel comfortable to do it, you can go oblique like that. But I would go, if I go 3 times like that, I would go 3 times like that. Okay, but always finish with straight strides, right? Okay, so I would finish with 10 to 20 straight strides and check my burr again. I might just clean the dirt. I check again. It's pretty good right now. Nope, it's not good here. Only here. See, I see this part here is not good. So I will keep going. Okay. If, for example, the edge doesn't come, you know, for a big part of the blade, this part of the blade or this part of the blade, the edge doesn't come, then you go back, you will go to your black. Okay. Now I started with the blue. If the edge doesn't come, go to a rougher grit or change your technique. Go with oblique side, oblique strides, and a diagonal, and put a little bit more pressure. You know, you don't want to be there sharpening for the whole night. You know, so I could either go with the blue, since I'm not missing much. I would just go like that with the blue. go to the end and finish with straight strides. Okay, so you would do that, sharpen like that until you're satisfied with the burr. The first burr is the most important. You know, if you're there and you were missing just a little bit there, but you know, you keep going, well, it's always going to be weak in that part. Okay, so that first part is super important. You want to feel the burr everywhere on the edges. Of course, that matter. And when it's the case, okay, now I did the blue. Now I have my edge. I'm satisfied. Okay, then I go to the red, which is the grit, just a little bit softer. And then I would go with straight strides. I would say 30 strides. As I often say, I'm a little bit superstitious. I used to go for 33 strides when I was sharpening for the national team. I felt it would bring luck to the skaters. So remove this. Okay. Then you would take your blades off the jig completely. Okay. Some people are able to remove the burr, leaving the blades on the jig. That's okay. If you're comfortable to do that, that's fine. But you know, if in some occasion that happens that the burr stone flips or the carbides flips, well, it's going to take now a much longer time to be sharpening, to complete your sharpening. So now we're at the step of removing the burr. I would say that's the most important part. As important as it was to have burr everywhere on the edges, now it's important to remove completely your burr of the edges every single step of the sharpening. Okay, if there is some burr, it's gonna be like someone who's trying to drive a car with summer tires on the snowstorm. You know, it's not gonna bite at all. So for removing the burr, there's a few options. You know, there's the conventional stones, the diamond stones, the conventional, I would say the conventional diamond stones, because now we have the flexible diamond stones that will allow you to do both sides at once. That's the one I like to use now. If you're using a different tool, I would say make sure that your tool is not too big, it's not too long. You see here, the stone is about not even an inch long, a couple of centimeters. If you have a burr stone that is about that long, what's going to happen is that you have a curve on your blade. What's going to happen is only going to touch on the two ends of the stone, and it's not going to work so well. Okay, so if you like those stones, that's fine. Again, as I said before, for the sharpening stones, make sure it's clean and it's straight. Okay, two things to remember: keep it clean, keep it straight, make sure it's straight. To keep it clean, there's a little trick that I like to give. Is you take two of them, put oil in the middle, and you rub them on each other. Then remove the dust and go again until it's very clean. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to clean those, and it's a little tip that Valérie Maltais gave me one time, and I think it's great. The other option that a lot of top skaters would like to use is the carbides. You know, there's different type of carbides. This is the skater's choice. That I would say 95% of the skaters are using. You got the Frank's signature. This one is a triangle. This one is it's more durable, but you need to have a little angle when you run it. I'll not go through it today. But also there's the what we call the Orobes. For the carbides, what's important is to be comfortable the way, you know, to hold it. So I would say the more often you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. So you'll find a carbide that, you know, that you're comfortable. Some people will go like this. You find your own technique, but what you don't want is to flip it on a blade as you're doing it, because you're going to create a bad strip on your blade. And as I said before, it might be very long after to remove that strip and to get a good sharpening. So for me, as I said, I really like to use those little flexible diamond stones. You know, you just go back and forth a few times, and normally the burr is completely out. So why use anything else when the, you know, a simple thing really works? But yeah, I wanted to say, if you're using a carbide or a conventional stone, make sure that you apply a good pressure on the blade. And I would suggest to use a cloth or something to put between your finger and the blade, not to injure yourself, and be able to put a good pressure to pinch the tool properly. Okay. Go a little bit more here. Then go to the other side. And again, you would do that until you don't feel burr anywhere on the blade. Super important to remove your burr completely. If you have a hard time doing that, that might be, you might have to look at your equipment, or there might be something causing that, and I don't want to go through that today, but there's solutions to that. But it's important to be able easily to remove your burr. Sometimes the solution would be to bring your blade down. Sometimes the blade have been rounded on this way. So if you have a hard time to remove the burr, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a big problem that you need to solve if you want to have sharp blades every time you're skating. If you don't want to be, you know, spending hours on the sharpening every time. Sharpening should take 10-15 minutes max. Okay, not more than that. So now I would put back my skates on the jig. Another thing I forgot to mention, should I go like this and at some point go like this? Yes, it's a good idea to turn you can say every half of the sharpening or every second sharpening, to make sure that, you know, your skating pattern, because we all not your skating but your sharpening pattern will be kind of spread between the front and the back. I say that, for example, sometimes the way they sharpen, they put a little bit more pressure at the end like that, or if they don't go far enough, you would change your rocker. Always change your rocker a little bit. So if you flip, well, you will spread the damage, I would say. But you know, so that's a good idea to you know, to move it the front and the back every once in a while. But you don't need to go crazy about that. Okay. So last step, I went blue. Okay, I was able to get my edge with the blue. Okay, and then I smoothed it with the red. Okay, so now for the next step, I go straight to the red. Okay, so now my blade is straight. It's going to be easy to get an edge with my finer grit, which is the red. If you're always using conventional stone, you would go with your softer grit. Now, you would, on the first step, you would have gone rough grit, then softer, and you remove the burr. And now at this step, you would go with your softer grit. So now here we're at the red. So I would go, as I said before, for about 30 strides, back and forth, moving slowly my blade left to right, right to left, with some pressure. You see I put some pressure, but try to keep the pressure constant. Okay? Why you put pressure? Because you don't want to be there all night. Okay? Then I check if I feel the burr everywhere. Again, it's important to feel it everywhere. Now I'm with the red, so it won't be as gross, but you should feel it everywhere. You should hear it like that. I don't know if you guys can hear it. You should hear it when you go. And if I repeat myself, but it's important. If on some part of the important edge you don't feel it, well, keep going until you feel it. If you know, you may need to go a little bit oblique or perpendicular. Go for a few strides like that, and then always finish straight. Okay. So now I got my edge quite easy with the red. So I'm gonna finish polishing a little bit with the gold. Okay. People used to polish for a long time. Want the blades as polished as possible. I would say it's a tendency that is not so strong anymore. Okay, like this grit is 1200. At some point, people were trying to go 5,000, 10,000, even more, and now people go for like 20, 30 strides with 1200, and I would say they have great results. It's not going to make you, well, in my mind, it's not going to make you glide so much more to have to go with the very fine grits. I would say now that the long track national team have started to use our products last year, and we're really happy to see the great results they got. Even Blondin, all these guys, they all bought our stones, and they were really strong on conventional stones. But since the skate tech from the long track team, Reese Darrow, was using our products, they all tried it, and they loved it. So they got their own, and you know, we can't say it's only because of that, but they seem to like their blades and had great results. So it's important to have a good sharpening, and to have your mind to have a peace of mind that you're doing the right thing. You know, you don't want to spend too much time. You just want to do it. Bring the burr everywhere, take it off everywhere, and then it's good. It's good enough. You don't need to do more than that. You know, it should stay simple. Okay. You don't want to go crazy about your sharpening, but you want a good, nice sharpening every time, so that you have the equipment to compete. Because the higher you will higher level you will get, you can expect that the other skaters will have good equipment. They have good bend, they have good good equipment, good sharpening, and of course good training, good strategy. There's so many factors, but you have to see this as one of the factors of performance. Okay, if one thing is not there, it's gonna be hard, and the equipment has to be there. So that would be the last step would be to remove my burr. Of course, you don't want to leave it like that. So I'm gonna run my flexible couple times, make sure there's no burr at all, which is very good now. And then,
So Frank, it's Julie. Are you
yeah,
able to hear me?
yeah,
Oh, good. I'm sorry that you couldn't hear me before. I was just wondering if you want to show the flexible burr stone just a little closer.
okay, yeah.
Because I just want to make sure everyone, I know many people have seen it, but for those who haven't seen it, it might be
Yeah,
confusing what
this
you're
is
talking about.
the burr stones here, the flexible, maybe with the light. So they flip like that on the blade. So I will bring my second blade. You see, you would take your flexible like that. I don't know if you can see it. You see it's on both sides of the blade, and you pinch it. Only a couple strides will remove the burr completely. Okay, but again, super important to remove that burr every time, because otherwise it's not going to be so sharp. Okay, so again, this shouldn't be more complicated than that. You know, get burr, then remove it, and the last time you get your edge, make sure it's everywhere, but it's a finer grit. In this case, we use the 600 grit. That's perfect. That's what everybody does now. You know, get your edge with the 600 grit, then polish it. But to be able to do that, you need to have it, to have it flat, so that the blade shouldn't be dull. Otherwise, it can take hours with only the 600. So that's the idea, to have a rougher grit at the beginning, since your blade is rounder. Then once it's straight, then go to finer grit, and this way your edge is gonna last much longer. As I said before, you could go through all the steps one shot. You know, black, blue, red, go, and you'll check your edge. It's gonna be sharp. It will look sharp, but after just maybe 10 laps, probably it's gonna start breaking at some places. So you know, it's important to get your edge, smoothen it, then remove it completely, then get an edge with a finer stone and remove it completely, and you'll have sharp blades, and you'll be able to complete. And again, don't go crazy with the polishing. It's not really the polishing that's gonna make you go so fast. Because I can say that on the national team, when Jeff Sholton was the skate tech, or the skate specialist, they made a study to try to prove that the polishing would make the blade glide much more, and they couldn't prove it. At the end, they couldn't prove it at all. So you don't need to go crazy with that. I had Charles Cournoyer, who would finish with the red for many years. He was second in the world in 1,000 meters, and he would not polish with anything finer than the red, which is 600 grit. Okay, so I see the time has passed. You know, again, we talked about loosening your blade. That's super important. Do it often, every time you have a contact. Be aware of your equipment. Don't go crazy with your equipment, but make sure it's there, it's working for you, and then put your mind on skating, on your strategy, on your technique, and then you can forget completely about the equipment. And yeah, I think that touches most of the points. I'm ready to answer some questions now, if there is some.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say I'm sorry you guys couldn't hear me at the beginning, but I did do a really nice intro for you, and I let everyone know that, I mean, if they know you, they know how knowledgeable you are and how willing you are to share. So thank you for sharing with us today. And if you didn't know Frank before today, I'm sure you got to know him a little bit, and hopefully you learned some new tips. I think that was a really great balance of giving information sort of at the next level for the people that are there, and also basic information for people who are just learning. So thank you so much for doing that. I do have one question here in the chat. In terms of blade maintenance, do you have any tips for blade maintenance during the off season, especially to prevent rust, spots, or rusting?
No, I guess it's well, a little oil can prevent rust for sure. It's just to make sure that every time you're skating, that you dry your blades completely. Some blades tend to get rusty a little bit more than others, and sometimes it's the high-end blades, you know, the powder metal blades that are the worst for that. So it's only to make sure they're completely dry. Of course, if you leave it in a garage or in a shed that's very humid, that could be a problem. So if it's the case, maybe just put a little bit of oil everywhere. We got a little if it's a problem for you and you got rusty blades, we got a little cream here that we could send, or you know, that will work really well for the rusty blades. But normally it's to make sure that they're dry, completely dry every time you finish skating, and you shouldn't have this problem.
Awesome, thank you. So another question is, do you have any other methods other than the one you showed about how to make sure that the blades are level in the jig, other than the scraping one?
Well, to do that will show you if the blades are level. Okay, then once you see that, then that's where you need to play with your handles. You know, if you have an old jig, you can play with the position on the of the blades a little bit, the boots, and try to play with the handles. But really, at some point, you know, when you get to a good level and you want to clear your mind about that, it's to have a jig that's gonna, you know, have a good quality jig that holds the blade always the same way. Like the silver here, the nice thing is that it's a simple system that's round, that just comes and pinch the blade on the same angle all the time. There's other jigs, but this one is super popular at this time of the year. We're almost always back order, because yeah, it will save you so much time to have so much time and trouble to have a good jig where, again, the angle is always the same. Besides that, yeah, I would tell you to try with the little oblique. That's not gonna, you know, damage your blade, but that's gonna make you save a lot of time if you have an old jig.
Yeah, I know from experience with my skaters, they're nervous to do that, but then the little marks that you make, you're gonna erase them when you sharpen.
Yeah, right away. And
yeah,
you know, you could go with your finer grit. You know, you could go with 1,000 grit, something really fine, and go really gentle on the top of the blade. And yeah, right away with your rough grit, it's gonna go away.
okay, another question here. For beginners who start sharpening, would you suggest sharpening on the floor where they can be above the jig and the skates?
That's a good question. I would say just to be comfortable, you know, to be able to go at the full range of movement. What I don't like to see is, and well, that problem with at Maurice Richard Arena, where their table is too high. So what you don't want is you know, to be stuck like that. I like to be not too high, you know. So if you're sitting down sharpening, yeah, it's the way that most of skaters like to do. I'm not so flexible, so I would, you know, be on my knees when I have to be on the ground. I would just bend on my knees and go like that. But a lot of people will sit, have their two legs on each side and go like that. But you know, again, I like to see a little bit of pressure. I see sometimes, you know, skaters like that, and they're sitting on the ground and, you know, sharpen, and they do that for forever. You know, it shouldn't take so much time. Just go for it and keep a constant pressure, and I think it's the best way to go.
Awesome. Okay, another one here. You'll like this one. So how do you use Frank's signature carbide, and how is it different from a regular carbide?
Well, Frank signature, that's in fact they're all Frank signature, but the one the triangle one is the Franks. They're all Frank signature because we put the Frank signature on all our carbides, so people know they're good for speed skating, because we see all type of carbides. So by that little signature, we know they're, you know, they're all been tested and do a good job for speed skating. But for this particular question here, I'm gonna have to get closer. You see, this carbide here. Okay, I'll find my. Okay, there's a in the middle. Okay, it might be hard to see on the screen. In the middle part is just a little bit higher than the edges here. Okay, so because of that, if you run it, if you just run it straight like that, it's the inner part that's gonna touch. You know, it's the inner triangle that's gonna touch. So you need to give it an angle like that. I don't know if we see it. Try to go like that. You need to give it an angle. Okay. Of course, this way it's gonna be flat on the blade, but a little angle like that. Okay. So if I use it again, I always like to take a little cloth, you know, to pinch my tools. Okay, and I would bring it up here. I'm left-handed, so maybe here would be easier. Okay, so I would either bring the front high like that and run it like that. Can you see it? Okay, so you go, you know, you take it like that, put a little angle, and bring this down to the blade. Okay, and the nice thing about this one is that it would last 3-4 times longer than a normal carbide. So, and that's the problem with the carbides, is that, you know, like the skater's choice. A guy like Francois Hamelin used to tell me he would spend 10 in 1 year, 10 little carbides like that. But with a good one, you would barely change it. You know, it's really it lasts really longer.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I've got another one here. Do you still have a couple minutes?
Yeah, no rush.
Okay. Is there a better way of making sure the skates are straight in the jig? I noticed you let the blades sit along the bottom of the jig. However, I have always pulled the blades up to the top to make contact where the blade meets the metal tube. So what are your thoughts on letting them sit versus pulling up?
Yeah, I like this question. It's a debate. I'll go on the side here. Okay. Yeah, it's a good observation. I always like to let the blade go in the bottom. Okay, Why is that? Is that I'm sure it can go further down. Okay, when I'm going to sharpen. Another acceptable way is to bring the lip up and and tighten it. You guys see it? That's good. That will work. But I always like to let it sit in the bottom so that way it's when I'm sharpening, I'm not gonna have a blade that's gonna start sliding down this way. I'm sure. Okay, and if again if you don't want to do that little technique I mentioned about, you can simply start sharpening with the stone that you normally use. Start sharpening and look where look on the whole blade. If you'll see where you have been sharpening, it would be not as mirror. Okay, the finish would be more matte. And if you see that on some side of the blade that it's still very much mirror, right, you will see it quite quickly. While it might be that your blade is not perfectly square or quite exactly like last time you've been sharpening. So then you can play with it and keep going.
Awesome. Okay, so then another one here. What's the best way to clean a conventional sharpening stone? You indicated oils, but was that for a diamond stone only?
No, actually, the diamond stones, you don't need oil at all. Okay, diamond stones normally is just a dry cloth, and that's it. Once in a while, if for some reason there's something sticky, someone drops Coca-Cola on your stone, and for any reason it's getting sticky, you can clean it with water and soap. But I would make sure it's completely dry. That's for the the diamonds. But yeah, conventional stone, when they're new, you need to for some of them, put them in, let them sink into oil, like so that it doesn't it doesn't drain all the oil when you put it to clean it. So you can let it into oil for like a couple hours or even a full night. Then it would drink all the oil and get full with it. And then yeah, any type of oil will do, but there's not much you can use. It's always something oily to remove it. But you could use a toothbrush. You could of course a cloth often to so you put oil, you rub it with whatever, your fingers. I always use with my finger, but could be a toothbrush. But after a while, when you see it's too dirty, it's too sticky, it's starting to be wavy. Well, I believe in every club there's someone who, or every region there's someone who would offer the service to make them straight. They use the silice sand or so find a guy who does that in your area and have him to bring it flat every once in a while. That's going to clean it at the same time, when it's too bad. But if you use a baby oil, any oil, every time you're sharpening, your stone will stay clean, and you shouldn't have too much trouble.
Okay, we've got two more, and then I think we'll call it at that for the night. So what's the best way to tell when a blade is low enough that it needs to be replaced?
I would when it doesn't fit in the jig. That's about it. For me, I've known some skaters who like very low blades. Some people love high blades, but some people like lower blades. But I would tell you, you know, technically, that the real answer is it would be when when you see it's gonna lean and the lip is gonna touch the ice. Okay, but for this to happen, the blade has to be really, really low. Okay, so for example, with Francois Hamelin, he had brand new blades. We would bring it down by I'm thinking in thousand of an inch, but it's like 30 to 40,000 of an inch, which is quite, you know, a lot. And he loved the feeling. Normally, it's not that the blade is too low that's going to tell you it's time to change it. It's more that it's getting wavy after, you know, you've worked on it too much, or it's getting too soft. It's not holding the bend as well. That's when you're going to change your blades. 99% of the time is that, you know, it's getting too soft. It's not as the tube is not as strong enough anymore, or you had too much hit on the side. That's now your blade is kinked. But really rarely I would tell someone, you know, your blade is too low. It's very rare.
Okay,
Then
awesome.
you can use it as a spare blade, for example.
Right. Okay, last one. Can you tell us how exactly to detect a strip as opposed to just a dull blade?
Well, a strip, as I said before, normally you will feel it with your finger, and you see it, you know, like when you go on the light like that, you see the strip. You see it on the, you know, on the light. It's going to reflect the light. You're gonna see it but yeah, I see the question. Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. It's just that you run your nail and nothing's gripping. Okay, so yeah, what I was talking about is probably more like a big a contact of the blade. But if you have like a strip that's caused maybe from the dirty ice or something like that, it's just that, yeah, your bite is not, your nail is not biting at all for like a couple of centimeters or even an inch or sometimes even more. Okay, that's a strip. So you would, if you don't see it with the light, you would feel it with the nail. You know,
Yeah, and typically when the light hits it, it's brighter, right? Like it's more shiny.
Yeah, but yeah, when you run your finger or your nail, you would feel it. It just doesn't bite at all. So that's a strip.
Okay, well, I think we'll leave it at that for now because look at the time, we've gone way over. But thank you so much for spending the evening with us and giving us some tips about getting back on the ice. And I hope everyone has a good night and enjoys the rest of their summer.
Yeah, it was a great, it was a pleasure for me to be with you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys can skate soon and enjoy getting back on the ice. And I look forward to see you guys live.